In every age, people have asked the same questions. What is the good life? How should we treat one another? What does it mean to be free or virtuous or just? What does it mean to be human? Western Moral Philosophy for Beginners and Selenius Media takes you on a guided journey through the minds that shaped the moral backbone of the West, from the earliest Greek thinkers to the modern age. Lived stories of struggle, ambition, conflict, revelation, all unfolding against the sweep of history. If you've ever wanted to understand philosophy clearly, calmly, and humanly, if you want to know not just what these thinkers argued, but why it mattered, follow Western Moral Philosophy for Beginners today and explore 10 more podcasts at Selenius Media. Gorgias of Leontini is a figure entrenched in the history of Western philosophical thought, particularly known for his early exploration of nihilism and skepticism during the 5th century BCE. As a sophist and rhetorician, Gorgias's ideas challenged the very nature of reality, knowledge, and truth. In this deep dive, we'll explore the nuances of his philosophical contributions, particularly in moral philosophy, dissecting not only his most famous arguments but also their enduring relevance in contemporary discourse. Gorgias is particularly known for his work on non-existence, or on nature, where he famously posits that nothing exists, and if something does exist, we cannot know it. This radical stance laid the groundwork for a type of skepticism that would echo through centuries. In fact, Gorgias's assertion that perception and language shape our understanding of reality means that truth might be as elusive as a shadow. His approach can be traced as an early articulation of a defining problem in ethics and moral philosophy: the struggle to discern an objective moral truth in a world perceived very differently by each individual. One of the central pieces of Gorgias's argument is encapsulated succinctly in his refutation of existence. Gorgias entertains 3 main propositions. First, that nothing exists. Second, if anything existed, we could not know it. And third, even if we could know it, we couldn't communicate that knowledge to others. Let's break these down in a way that illuminates their implications for morality. The first proposition, nothing exists, may initially sound absurd. However, Gorgias invites his audience to think critically about the nature of perception. Reality, as we understand it through our senses, is ultimately subjective. This claim introduces a moral relativism that suggests that moral judgments themselves might not rest on any objective foundation. What one culture or individual believes to be morally right might not hold true for another. In effect, Gorgias's nihilism posits that our ethical frameworks are contingent on personal or cultural perspectives rather than universal truths. Moving to his second proposition, that if something does exist, we could not know it, Gorgias challenges the reliability of human cognition. If our senses are inherently flawed, the moral truths we perceive through them are likewise dubious. Imagine a situation in law where perceptions of guilt and innocence are influenced heavily by emotions, biases, or societal norms. The idea here is that the judicial system, much like any moral framework, grapples with the inherent uncertainty of human perception. If we accept Gorgias's premise, then the very foundation of legal moralism, Our attempts to ascertain what is just or unjust becomes a complex entanglement of subjective experiences. Lastly, his third proposition, that we cannot communicate knowledge effectively, has profound implications. This suggests that moral discussions, often founded on the notion of shared truths, are fraught with misunderstanding. In many political debates today, we see this play out in the realm of social media, where ideas can easily be miscommunicated or distorted. Misinformation can dominate discussions about morality, leading to polarized perspectives where no common ground can be established. Gorgias reveals a world where agreement on ethical issues becomes difficult because of our inability to share or even understand truths in a universally accepted manner. Now, let's connect these philosophical musings to modern situations. One pertinent example lies in the development and implementation of artificial intelligence. As AI systems become increasingly integral to decision-making, from healthcare diagnostics to judicial assessments, the question arises, can these systems deduce moral outcomes? From a Gorgian perspective, without a clear foundation of moral truth, and with our existing biases and perceptions affecting what we create and how we interact with these systems, we may find ourselves perpetuating flawed ethical consequences. Alternatively, consider the controversies surrounding medical ethics, particularly in debates around end-of-life care. What might constitute a moral choice in one cultural or personal context can appear radically different in another. In navigating these complex discussions, one inevitably confronts the Gorgian dilemmas. Are we truly equipped to arrive at a right decision when our interpretations of morality can vary so widely? However, Gorgias and his nihilism do not go unchallenged. Many later thinkers have critiqued or expanded upon his ideas. For instance, Plato, a student of Socrates, vehemently opposed the nihilistic tendencies of Gorgias, arguing for the existence of objective truth and moral realism. In dialogues such as the Republic, Plato posits that truth, beauty, and goodness exist as ideals, separate from individual beliefs. This philosophical rivalry between Gorgias's skepticism and Platonic idealism becomes a significant point of contention in the Western moral tradition, a contest that continues to bear relevance through the ages. In the modern era, existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre further grappled with nihilism, though they sought to find meaning in an indifferent universe. Sartre rejected a deterministic view of human existence that suggests our moral choices are meaningless. Unlike Gorgias's notion of total moral relativism, Sartre argues that individuals can forge their own meaning and ethical frameworks, even in the absence of an objective moral truth. This debate embodies the ongoing struggle between nihilism and the search for meaning, a theme that resonates profoundly in contemporary discussions surrounding mental health and existential crises. As we reflect on Gorgias's contributions to moral philosophy, it is essential to consider the criticisms of his views. One major limitation of Gorgias's nihilism is that it can lead to moral paralysis. If everything is subjective and no truths are assailable, how can one advocate for justice or responsibility? This line of reasoning can foster apathy in political engagement, where social change becomes difficult to imagine or enact. In addition to societal movements for justice and equality, progressive thinkers have emphasized responsibility grounded in sociocultural contexts, seeking to create frameworks that elevate empathy and understanding rather than succumb to moral nihilism. Ultimately, Gorgias's legacy invites us to reflect on our ethical beliefs and the validity of our convictions. The notion that what we know might be deeply rooted in perspective challenges us to examine our moral frameworks critically. As we navigate a world marked by diverse viewpoints, how can we make sense of our ethical choices? In grappling with our own beliefs and how they interact with those of others, we engage in a conversation echoing through history from the sophists to existentialist thinkers and onward. As you listen to these ideas, take a moment to contemplate your own moral convictions. Where do they come from, and how are they influenced by your perceptions and experiences? How might Gorgias's ideas about the nature of truth and knowledge affect your view of ethics in daily life? These questions hold significance not only within philosophical discourse, but also in personal development and understanding our roles as engaged members of society. A particularly striking feature of Gorgias's thought is his emphasis on the power of rhetoric and language, which he considered central to both philosophy and morality. He understood that persuasive speech shapes not only how we perceive reality, but also how we construct our moral beliefs. Gorgias famously articulated that words are a powerful force, capable of influencing how people think and act. This notion raises significant questions about the relationship between language and ethics, highlighting the moral responsibility that comes with the power of persuasion. One way to explore this theme further is to think about how public discourse shapes ethical decision-making in society today. Consider political rhetoric, which often employs emotionally charged language to sway public opinion. A compelling speech can ignite action, inspire movements, or manipulate emotions, but it can also lead to misinformation and ethical dilemmas. Gorgias's insights into rhetoric remind us that the framing of issues can determine the moral landscape. For example, the language used during election campaigns often reduces complex social issues to sound bites, stripping away the nuance necessary for informed ethical judgment. This manipulation of language can create an ethical vacuum where decisions are made based not on informed understanding, but on persuasive appeal, often to the detriment of comprehensive deliberation. Issues of manipulation and truth are glaringly evident in the context of media literacy today. In a world inundated with information from innumerable sources, discerning what is true from what is deceptive requires a critical eye, a skill that Gorgias's perspectives compel us to hone. The philosopher's assertion that our understanding relies heavily on perception underscores the responsibility we carry to seek out reliable information and question the narratives presented to us. His views illuminate the ethical dimension of our engagement with media. The knowledge we consume can profoundly affect our moral landscape, shaping how we understand complex societal issues like climate change or social justice, where language profoundly influences policy and personal belief systems. Moreover, Gorgias's philosophy operates on a meta-ethical level, prompting consideration of the foundations of our moral discourse itself. Without objective truths, what basis do we have for moral claims? Here, we find ourselves returning to modern ethics' pressing concerns. Take, for instance, the realm of bioethics. Particularly in the debate surrounding organ donation, cultural, individual, and religious beliefs significantly shape opinions on what constitutes a moral obligation to donate organs after death. In this context, Gorgias's nihilistic perspective invites vital reflections on how varying perceptions of life, death, and altruism affect decisions. The question isn't merely one of legality or practicality, but of moral frameworks that diverge due to cultural narratives. As such, we see how the subjective nature of ethics becomes not just a theoretical idea, but a deeply practical issue with life or death consequences. As we delve deeper into Gorgias's contributions, we encounter another critical layer: how his ideas engage with skepticism. By questioning our capacity to know anything with certainty, Gorgias lays a philosophical groundwork for subsequent thinkers grappling with similar existential dilemmas. In this way, he becomes both a precursor and a foil to later philosophical movements. For instance, Descartes' foundational quest for certain knowledge in the 17th century stems in part from a reaction to Gorgian skepticism. While Gorgias raised questions about whether we can know or communicate moral truths, Descartes insisted that through reason and doubt, one can arrive at undeniable truths, such as, I think, therefore I am. This distinction between radical skepticism and the quest for certainty extends into the moral domain. How do we ground our ethical beliefs amidst the uncertainties of perception that Gorgias raised? Another major figure who engaged directly with Gorgian skepticism is Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's notion of the will to power confronts Gorgias's nihilism by proposing that we can create our own values and interpretations of truth, rather than succumbing to a paralyzing relativism. Thus, while Gorgias presents us with a world where engaging moral responsibility becomes vexed due to uncertainty, Nietzsche offers a more dynamic counterpart, suggesting that we possess the agency to forge meaning and, by extension, moral commitments. However, there are critiques of the existentialist view that suggest it can fall into a kind of individualism that neglects the wider societal context of morality. Those who subscribe to Gorgian skepticism might argue that Nietzschean moral frameworks risk ignoring the importance of communal ethics, those broader narratives shaped by culture and shared human experience. Hence, while Gorgias challenges us to rethink the foundations of our moral beliefs, later thinkers like Nietzsche emphasize the necessity of constructing values in a collectively engaged manner that acknowledges the influence of shared language and culture. Furthermore, consider the criticisms directed toward Gorgias himself. Many proponents of moral realism raise concerns about his arguments leading to moral paralysis or apathy. If all moral perceptions are equally valid, how can one justify taking action against injustice? This critique has informed subsequent developments in moral philosophy, leading thinkers like John Stuart Mill to advocate for utilitarianism, which seeks a measurable basis for moral decision-making based on promoting the greatest happiness for the greatest number. By countering Gorgian skepticism with a framework that seeks to quantify ethical impact, utilitarianism provides an alternative that emphasizes responsibility toward communal well-being. In reflecting on these responses to Gorgias, we recognize that the interplay between nihilism, skepticism, and moral philosophy continues to shape contemporary debates around ethical frameworks. As we encounter diverse perspectives on issues like climate change, immigration, or systemic racism, we are reminded of Gorgias's insight into the power of language. The way we articulate these issues, the terms we use, the narratives we create, can significantly influence public sentiment and action, reinforcing or dismantling existing moral paradigms. Herein lies an ethical challenge for our time. How we speak matters, and those engaged in shaping public discourse must acknowledge their responsibility. We can draw a parallel with technology and artificial intelligence as these platforms increasingly influence societal norms. With the advent of AI-driven applications in areas like online content curation or social media algorithms, we see a manifestation of Gorgias's insights into language and perception. Algorithms tailor experiences based on user behavior, shaping the narratives users encounter. As a result, certain realities may be perpetuated while others are marginalized. Questions about ethical responsibility arise. Are these technologies amplifying misinformation, fueling divisiveness, or enabling progress? The very implications of AI echo Gorgias's earlier warnings about the power of words and the nature of truth, presenting us with ethical concerns that are not merely theoretical, but immediate and actionable. In navigating these complexities, we might discover that Gorgias's philosophy, rather than rendering us paralyzed, serves as a call to vigilance. Confronted with the realities of diverse ethical opinions, we are prompted to engage actively with our moral beliefs. How can we promote dialogue in the face of differing truths? How can we find common ground while embracing the multiplicity of perspectives? Engaging with Gorgias's philosophy invites us to cultivate critical thinking, empathy, and the capacity for nuance in a world that is increasingly polarized. As we end this deep dive, I invite you to carry Gorgias's insights with you. In what ways does our understanding of morality reflect the complexities of perception and language? As you consider your own beliefs and how they interact with societal narratives, think about how these understandings might affect your actions and interactions in your daily life. In confronting ethical dilemmas, we can strive to foster meaningful conversations, bridging divides between differing perspectives. While nihilism can seem daunting, it is also an opportunity for reflection and exploration, an invitation to engage with the profound intricacies of existence and the moral implications entwined within. In contemplating Gorgias's legacy, we are reminded that the journey toward understanding the nature of truth, ethics, and morality is ongoing. Our pursuit of clarity amid uncertainty is an essential human endeavor. As we navigate the complexities of our world, may we wield the power of language responsibly, always in pursuit of deeper understanding and greater compassion. As we continue our exploration of Gorgias's philosophical contributions, it becomes clear that his influence reaches beyond mere skepticism and nihilism. The implications of his thought extend into realms like aesthetics, politics, and the broader understanding of human communication. By delving deeper into these dimensions, we can unravel how Gorgias's insights intersect with the moral landscape we inhabit today. One of Gorgias's key contributions lies in his understanding of rhetoric and its potential both to manipulate and to illuminate. This notion of rhetoric as a powerful tool closely aligns with his philosophical stance by emphasizing the role of persuasion in shaping beliefs and moral frameworks. In an era marked by escalating political polarization and rampant misinformation, the significance of persuasive communication resonates profoundly with contemporary society. Gorgias's assertion that rhetoric is a means of finding truth carries weight in a world where the line between fact and falsehood is increasingly blurred. Examining modern political discourse, we see reflections of Gorgias's ideas woven into election campaigns and policy debates. The art of persuasion can sway public opinion beyond mere reasoned argument. Instead, it often manipulates emotions, tapping into visceral responses that short-circuit rational deliberation. Political leaders employ rhetoric strategically to inspire loyalty, provoke fear, or galvanize support for controversial measures. Gorgias's insights remind us that the moral implications of such rhetoric cannot be underestimated. How can we ensure that our decisions are based on informed understanding rather than emotional manipulation? In grappling with this question, we find ourselves returning to Gorgias's call for critical engagement with the narratives that shape our worldview. Furthermore, Gorgias's relationship with rhetoric leads us to consider the ethics of communication in our digital age. Social media platforms, designed for rapid dissemination and persuasive interaction, exemplify the dynamics of rhetoric in a contemporary context. The viral nature of content can amplify both truth and falsehood, revealing how easily moral discussions can be distorted. Here, the rhetoric of social media can evoke collective outrage or foster solidarity, but it may also cultivate division and misunderstanding. Gorgian philosophy challenges us to reflect on our role as consumers and purveyors of information. Are we engaging with content critically, or are we merely absorbing narratives without scrutiny? In the face of misinformation, how do we hold ourselves accountable for the truths we transmit? Engaging with Gorgias's rhetoric also prompts reflection on testimony and personal narratives. In fields like medicine and law, the subjective, everyday experiences of individuals are often pivotal to ethical decision-making. Consider the role of patient narratives in healthcare. Each patient's story is a deeply personal account that can enrich our understanding of medical dilemmas and patient autonomy. However, if perceived through a Gorgian lens, the reliability of these testimonies might come into question. The limit of shared understanding could engender skepticism, about the moral weight of individual accounts. How do we elevate diverse voices while acknowledging differing perceptions of reality? This tension invites ongoing deliberation around the ethics of listening, empathy, and the necessity of honoring individual experiences. Moreover, Gorgias's insights about rhetoric interlace with the philosophical dimensions of moral leadership and responsibility. For instance, in situations like public health crises, such as the recent global pandemic, leaders' discourse can significantly shape collective behavior and moral standards. Decisions driven by transparent, well-reasoned communication can inspire trust and encourage compliance with ethical guidelines. Gorgias's emphasis on the potential of rhetoric thus fosters a deeper understanding of the moral obligation that comes with authority. How leaders frame their messages influences not just individual actions, but public health outcomes. When leaders communicate transparently and responsibly, we see the positive impact of rhetoric grounded in ethics. Conversely, when rhetoric is employed to obfuscate or distort, the ethical ramifications can be dire, resulting in public distrust and moral ambiguity. In this way, Gorgias's exploration of rhetoric provides the foundation for continued inquiry into the ethics of leadership. As we navigate the complexities of authority, we might ask, what responsibilities do communicators carry in shaping ethical landscapes through their language? In elevating accountability, Gorgian philosophy encourages us to grapple with the moral implications of our words and the ability they have to nurture or destroy. Within the moral landscape shaped by Gorgias's legacy, we also find the interplay between perception and power. As we've established, his philosophy suggests that understandings of moral truths might fundamentally rely on social constructs, perceptions, and cultural narratives. This perspective becomes particularly relevant in discussions about social justice movements, where various groups advocate for moral claims rooted in their lived experiences. Here, Gorgias's insights on the subjective nature of reality inform the debates surrounding issues such as racism, gender equality, and climate justice. The voices of marginalized communities challenge dominant narratives, asserting that ethical frameworks must be inclusive and reflective of diverse experiences. In doing so, we recognize the moral necessity of centering these voices in our understanding of justice. Gorgias's position highlights the importance of acknowledging that each individual's moral framework is shaped by their unique perspectives that must be listened to and respected in our collective pursuit of justice. However, this also raises a critical question. In advocating for diverse moral frameworks, how do we balance conflicting values? In responding to this challenge, we might consider how Gorgian philosophy serves as a lens through which ethical dialogues can persist amid disagreement. While Gorgias offers a compelling critique of absolute truths, his perspectives invite a deeper examination of ethical frameworks as inherently relational. Engaging with others' moral beliefs, whether they align with or oppose our own, becomes essential in creating a richer moral discourse. By acknowledging the multiplicity of narratives that underpin ethical convictions, we can foster understanding that transcends mere tolerance. In seeking to empathize with those who hold different views, we create opportunities for collaboration and principled action toward shared goals. This exploration also leads us into modern ethical discussions about inclusion in legal frameworks and human rights. Within the justice system, one might reflect on how Gorgian skepticism challenges us to consider the moral complexities of law. Is justice merely what the law dictates, or should moral considerations, including empathy and understanding, guide legal processes? The application of Gorgian thought compels us to examine not just the letter of the law, but the spirit underpinning it. How might prevailing legal frameworks fail to account for the nuanced human experiences that shape claims to justice. In grappling with these questions, we underscore the vital importance of humanizing the legal discourse through Gorgias's insights. As we've seen, Gorgias's ideas expose ethical dilemmas that arise from a deeply interconnected world, where different moral visions coexist and frequently clash. The responses to these dilemmas rest upon the very essence of human connection and how we navigate our differences in pursuit of common ground. Gorgias's advocacy for critical reflection reminds us that our ethical frameworks must evolve in concert with our growing understanding of each other. To further underscore the relevance of Gorgian thought, consider the poignant debates surrounding manipulation within marketing and consumer ethics. As contemporary advertising becomes increasingly sophisticated, the persuasive techniques employed can evoke powerful emotional responses. Companies wield the power of rhetoric, shaping perceptions around brands and products in ways that can influence consumer behavior. Here lies a moral challenge. Do consumers have a responsibility to interrogate the narratives presented to them? Gorgias's insights serve as a powerful reminder of the need for ethical vigilance in a world where the rhetoric of persuasion can exploit vulnerabilities and distort honest valuing. The manipulation of emotions through marketing strategies may foster desires for luxury, scarcity, or status, leading to ethical quandaries around consumerism. In a society driven by material consumption, how can moral awareness guide our spending and lifestyle choices? These are questions worth considering as we engage with Gorgias's thought. While we can appreciate the artistry of persuasive communication, we must also interrogate the ethical dimensions of our engagements with materiality and consumer culture. In addressing these contemporary moral dilemmas, we find that Gorgias's skepticism does not necessitate a descent into moral paralysis. Instead, it provides a springboard for embracing a nuanced understanding of ethical complexities. It encourages us to engage with these complexities with courage, empathy, and an openness to dialogue. By integrating critical thinking with empathetic engagement, we navigate the diversity of moral perspectives and build toward a more just society. In conclusion, the influence of Gorgias the Nihilist reverberates through our understanding of morality. From the realms of personal ethics and communication to the broader narratives that shape our societal values, his insights compel us to examine our convictions critically. The interplay between perception and rhetoric, the complexities of individual experience, and the challenges of engaging with diverse perspectives all emerge from Gorgias's philosophical legacy. As you ponder the implications of Gorgias's thought in your own life, consider how your ethical choices are shaped not only by personal beliefs, but also by the power of language and the narratives surrounding you. Reflect on the conversations that matter to you. How can you promote understanding while navigating differences? Engage actively with the ethical questions that arise within your context, be it in personal relationships, professional settings, or public discourse. As Gorgias illustrates, grappling with the nature of truth, ethics, and moral complexities, every truth that challenges and disentangles us seriously in our way of life forever. In grappling with the nature of truth, ethics, and the cycles of ethical practices, we find the greatest difficulty in how we approach life in society. And morality is an ongoing journey that shapes our world. Each of us plays a vital role in that journey, tasked with the ethical responsibility to communicate, listen, and act with integrity. In a society marked by diversity, the pursuit of ethical truth remains ever relevant. By carrying forward the insights of Gorgias, we embrace the challenge of engaging critically with our perceptions while fostering a space for constructive dialogue, an endeavor that will guide us not only as ethical individuals, but as members of a deeply interconnected moral community.
Midnight rails under silver moon, dusty boots on a winding road. A shadow's the only friend I've known since she packed up and let me go. Empty whiskey bottle on the seat, her laugh still echoes in my bones. The saddle's heavy with memories. I ride alone where the wind still blows. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Sunrise paints the horizon gold, but it don't warm a lonesome soul. Every town I pass feels half her size. Every trail's haunted by goodbye. I whisper prayers to open skies, hoping someday my heart'll find a brand new path beyond the pain, where broken hearts can heal in time. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be.